Welcome back to Beauty Marks Podcast, a place where we embrace marks acquired through our journey. My name is Marcelins Sabillon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of this podcast. This month, we're doing a relationship series, and this week's episode is exciting because I have two very special guests, my sister, Stephanie Marcelin, and Katherine Sabillon. So we will be talking from a perspective of single, dating, and married. So let's just get right into it. So today I have my own sisters, Stephanie and Katherine Sabillon, on Beauty Marks Podcast. Welcome back, Steph, and welcome, Kat, to my podcast. How are you guys?
We're doing good. I'm doing good. Kat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
I know. It's been pulling teeth with these ladies to get this podcast going.
Not even. I am excited for this episode. I think it's going to be a great topic.
Yes. So what we're going to be talking about today, those that know us, it's we are the three sisters from a long time ago. We were always known as the trio. It was always us against not against everybody, against the world.
Against the world.
No, but we literally have grown up all of us together, very, very close. And our lives have changed so much in the past years. But I feel my sisters really know me best, and we just know each other's tea best. So it's just all of that together. I feel this episode is going to be really fun because we're going to be talking about relationships, our thoughts on the one, marriage, on dating. What do women look for in relationships? How to not lose yourself. So we're going to be talking a little bit about everything. So let's just get right into it, and let's introduce each other, and what has been your valuable lesson you've learned in previous relationships. So Steph, you can go first.
Yeah. So my name is Stephanie. I am married to my best friend, June. Honestly, he is an amazing husband, and, brother to y'all, which I absolutely love and adore. One of the things that I feel I learned in maybe a previous relationship, June wasn't the first person that I dated. I did date, just probably like everybody else, when I was younger, and I was in toxic relationships. I did find myself in some pretty bad relationships at a couple of points in my life. I think one of the things that I learned, and what has been most valuable to me, is really giving myself a voice. I felt sometimes I would find myself in toxic relationships because I would just kind of go with the flow, just trying to be at peace with the other person. But I would never really say what it is that I was feeling, what I was kind of going through, what I was fighting internally with. And so I felt I never had that safe space to be able to share those things emotionally. And therefore just kind of have, again, that safety net in that relationship. And so I think that's just one of the valuable things that I've learned now. And also, in marriage, that has helped us, because I feel safe enough to kind of share how I feel, knowing that I'm not going to be, shamed or guilted or, kind of just felt embarrassed to kind of share some things that, was just how I was feeling, And so I think that was one really valuable tip.
Yeah, I remember some of those relationships, and they were pretty rough, and it was sad, because it's how you're saying, not having a voice, and seeing how now you're very outspoken and you definitely say what you want, what you need. And I think that's something that I value a lot with June, is that you guys have evolved your relationship to be really healthy, which is something that I know both of you guys hadn't had before you guys. So I love that tip. How about you, Kat? What has been your previous experience, and a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Katherine. I'm 21 years old, and I'm the youngest of the three. I feel my experiences with relationships have kind of been just learning off of my sisters. I feel they've helped me, they've guided me in a way for me to know, I don't know, for where I am today, of meaning that I've only had one official boyfriend, and I feel that's also what I find a valuable lesson, is that I feel a lot of people sometimes think that they need all these boyfriends or girlfriends in a way for them to be happy, or for them to feel they have a level of maturity or whatever the case is. But I feel coming from my perspective, it's more like, no, like, you don't need to like give yourself away to multiple people to feel that value in any way. And you know, you can like learn how to construct something in a healthy way with one person. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think that my sister has, how she said, learned from our experiences.
Yeah.
And I admire her so much because in her one relationship, and I tell her that all the time, like she really does have like her own identity in her relationship, which I think me and Steph like struggled with throughout our relationships in the past. Like we would become the person that we were with. And I feel like Katherine, as young as she is, she's just very wise when it comes to relationships, of just like being so chill, like so laid back, like not as what is that called? I'm not gonna say like rude, like that she's rude, but
no, I think she's just confident in who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like she has like a holistic view on what a relationship is, rather than me. I ended up learning that like when I was in like my early 20s, her age. You know what I mean? She learned that when she was 15, seeing us struggle through everything we went through. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there is wisdom in that and there's counsel in that. Like the Bible talks about that, like in the multitude of people that you find wisdom. So I feel like she's seen that and she's learned and she's kind of like been a student to the lessons of other people. And therefore, you know, it can be like that with anybody else in any other category of your life that you feel like you're struggling with too, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think that people that may have been in a lot of relationships, like you can find that person that's younger than you to like try and like mentor them in that way as well. Like just how I had my sisters to like guide me and help me like in just their lives. Like they sometimes it wasn't even vocalized. It was just like me seeing like their life and everything. It helped me like be like, okay, I kind of don't want to do that and stuff like that. So if you're like that person that may have had like, you know, a lot of relationships or whatever, like don't be like, oh, well, it's the end. Like, no, like find someone that you can pour into so that they can like, you know, may not make those same mistakes.
Yeah. And even if you are, let's say you haven't had a relationship, that's something else too. Sometimes you think that you want to kind of be, I've heard from people that it's like, I want to know what a heartbreak is like. Like, I want to know what dating is like. And and I actually heard that. And I actually like, maybe because it's like the other perspective, like I have dated people and I've been heartbroken multiple times. Like, I'm like, girl, no, like that's not something that you wear a badge of honor of saying like, wow, yeah, I've dated around. Like, no, like that stuff, like it affects each relationship that you're in. So like, if you don't have to go through that, like see yourself as like such a, like it's a blessing, like for both ways. So if you have gone through that, like there's hope, like if you have gone through traumatic experiences in relationships,
absolutely.
But also if you haven't, you know, and this me speaking from the other side, it's like, there's so much like, just I don't know, like you just can learn so much and offer so much to the person that you're with, coming with not as much baggage when it comes in relationships. So I would say that it's like both sides, you know, you can see value in both, so whichever place you stand.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that is so true. I think it really goes also down to like how are you stewarding your heart, you know what I mean, and how are you taking care of the one thing you have control over, which is your heart. You know what I mean? The Bible tells us, guard your heart above all things, you know? And I think it's one of those areas where we don't put enough emphasis on that we were entrusted to guard our own heart and to kind of ensure that, you know, not that pain isn't going to happen, not that you're not going to be disappointed, not that, you know, setbacks aren't going to occur, but the level of access that you allow someone, you have full control over that for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that you allow in your life, the things that you tolerate in relationships. And these are relationships even more than just like romantic relationships, like even friendships, the things that you allow are part of that guarding of the heart. So it really depends on the boundaries, you know what I mean? The little ropes that you kind of set around areas that you do not enter, you know what I mean? Like those are important things that I think we all should all consider in our lives, and how we guard that and steward our emotional health, because that also ties into that, you know, that ties into how we feel emotionally, and then how we feel emotionally then ties into how we feel spiritually. So all these things are like intertwined. And if one thing is like hurt, then, you know, that's where we run to God for, you know, for help and for healing and for mending and to be restored. So there's nothing too far that God can't fix. God fixed my life. He turned it upside down. I am not who I was 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But there was a lot of pain in order to get to that restoration point, you know?
Yeah.
And not that there's any regrets, you know, because I don't believe in regrets, but there is definitely a deep level of healing that needs to happen, which is what happened in my life. And I can speak from that, you know, today.
Yes, girl. And if just saying, she was on my podcast on like the second or third episode. So I'm definitely gonna put it in the show notes to listen to that episode about her story. So there's just a lot of wisdom that you can get from that. But so what do you guys think about the one? So I did a poll on Instagram and I got some questions from there that we're going to be talking about today. So what do you guys think about the one?
I do not believe in the one. The actual, it's actually a mythological story, which is crazy that like we even talk about the one in church. And the story was that, and I mean, you guys are gonna have to check out the story, and you guys can Google it yourselves. But I think it was one of like the gods saw that, and it's again mythological stories. So that's why I'm saying gods. But saw that you know humans were actually becoming very powerful, and they were fearful that they were going to overthrow the god. And so he kind of cursed the human, and with that curse, what happened is that that person was then split into two. And from that, they actually were like kind of cursed to like, you know, have to one day find each other. And they were incomplete then at that moment. And originally from this mythological story, a human, which is one person, you know, had two heads, four arms, and four legs. So they were like, there's one whole like body creature with like two people merged together. But then in that curse, he actually just, you know, kind of like split them apart, really to like condemn them to like forever be looking for their other person to complete them. And that's where like that theory of like the one came, because then you feel like, you know, I am incomplete in myself, so therefore I need to find that person to complete me. And therefore I don't believe that there is one person destined out there for you, because what if I am, you know, Sarah is supposed to marry John, but John marries Becky, you know, then Becky has to find, you know, married, you know, and so it just becomes really complicated. It makes no sense. And there's only one story in the Bible that it talks about, you know, where there was someone that God confirmed that person for them and different things like that. But it's not even that, like, you know, if you don't marry that one person, like the whole world is going to shut down. Like that doesn't happen. God doesn't do that. There's a level of free will that God gives us. And I feel, and I believe that this is one of those areas where you have the opportunity to choose the person that you are going to be with. And if that solid foundation, you know what I mean, is established where, you know, you guys believe the same thing, you know, working towards the same goals, understand that you guys are full, as in like fulfilled and whole before you come into a relationship, I believe that it can work.
Yeah, I feel like that term, the one, like it gives a lot of power to somebody else for them to like literally what Steph said, make you whole, make you complete. When I feel like that's how that's the beginning of having a healthy relationship, you being whole in yourself, like you being the one, you being the one that you pour into yourself, and so that you can like be the best for another person. And I think God has a will for our lives. Like he has, you know, a plan and purpose for our lives, but I don't like, and I think that if the right person comes in your life, you can like excel and you can go farther based on like that person and like their qualities, and like, you know, if they work with your strengths, and they push, you know, you and you push each other like more and everything. But I do not think that there's like, if you don't meet that person, then it's all like gone to, you know, somewhere else, and you can't like have any of your goals or achieve anything.
Yeah, no, I agree, because we are like whole by ourselves, not because someone completes us. And that's like a false narrative. And that can lead to unhealthy relationships because you want something that someone else is going to give you. I think also with the one, I just feel like kind of like what Stephanie said, like, I don't think that there's one person set out for you, because what about people that got a divorce? What about people that someone passes away? What about people that, you know, maybe start dating someone and they like get married to someone else, and then, you know, it's just like, I feel like a mess that can happen. So I feel like everyone has that choice. And even if someone tells you, like, you know, especially in the church world, like people like tell you like, this is the one for you. I believe that God has that person for you. And they like call them by name. So they're like, you guys are supposed to be together. I still feel, because I've been told that before, and the person still has a free will. So if they decide to not go along the lines and change their path, or maybe want to be with someone else, that's the choice that they take. So like putting that pressure on, like, no, but you were supposed to be the one, like, God prophesied to me. Like, I feel like that's a very toxic culture when it comes in the spiritual, like in church, you know, that like you think that person's the one. At the end of the day, that person could have been like, could have, you know, worked out. You know, there's some people that also believe like you can make it work with anybody. Like, if those two people are healthy and good and they want to work it out, maybe you can work it out with certain things, or maybe it's easier to work it out with one person than the other. So I just feel like that is a mentality that could be destructive towards women, to think that there's just one person, and if you miss it, you're done.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned about the whole, like, you know, someone telling you that you're gonna like marry them. Before I married my husband, there was two people that told me I was supposed to marry them. And I looked at them and I was like, all right, well, God told you that, but he hasn't told me that. So until God be, you know, talking and confirming to the both of us, like, that's not it. And then there was just qualities that were just visual, that you're like, you know, and what I mean, like visual, it's not necessarily like looks, it's more like, okay, like I see like you're not being productive, like you're not a good steward of what you have, like you know what I mean, your temper is a little off. Like there's like literally red flags that are like flying high that I'm not going to ignore just because you're saying that God spoke to you, like, you know. And God, I'm not going to limit God to ways that, you know, he can or cannot function. I know people who, you know, they've been prophesied like God, you know, how wants you guys together, and they're together and like, hey, it's amazing. But to be completely sold on that being the only absolute way that it can happen for you, I think is limiting God through what he can do, you know, to his power, to, you know, his story in your life. And so I think that there's just different ways to do it. And of course, you know, you just receiving that peace, if that's what God has for you, and just being able to be healthy in that way as well.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Kat, I have a question for you. What are things that you have done to keep a healthy relationship and kind of have that confidence within yourself in relationships?
I feel like something that me and my boyfriend like have grown in is finding understanding within each other. Like first continue like discover each other, always learning. You know how that person, you know, because everyone changes along in time and everything, but definitely understanding. I feel like at first it was we were kind of like bump heads because I would always tell him like, oh, but you just don't understand me. And then like over time, you know, we just started like to get to know each other in like a better way, and just kind of understand each other like spiritually, like, you know, our dreams and our goals, understand each other, like our needs, like what I personally need in a relationship, what he needs in a relationship. Yeah, and just to be on the same page. I feel like a lot of times people go into relationships and they're like expecting the person to change, or they're expecting the person to be a certain way, like how they were in the beginning, but that's not always how things are. People change and they evolve, and you just have to, you know, like understand them, always like come at them as a friend, never as like, like, have that relationship as friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think with you guys, it has been like a friend foundation. And people that say like marry your best friend, like marry your friend. I think that like the core of that is like what you're saying. Like it's like what do you do with your friends? Like you love them as they are. You try to like encourage them and believe the best in them, and like, you know, be there for them. You still have your little things, but you're not trying to change your friend. You know, you're not trying to make them into who you need. So it's like that's the same in relationships. And Kat, how have you personally built that confidence within yourself, not having previous experiences when it comes to dating?
I feel like what you said at the end of like truly loving yourself. And I always tell Lindsay that, like, whenever she's like going through something or whatever, I'm always like, yeah, I feel like it goes back to how you see yourself, like your self-worth. Because then when someone tries to do something, you're like, no, like I don't deserve that. You know what I mean? Or you're getting treated any less than you should, your expectation, your standard. You know what I mean? So I feel like literally never letting your standard go down and being like consistently just being, you know, like loving yourself and not letting anyone or anything steal that joy, like not having anyone have enough power to take away your confidence. And I feel like a lot of girls, like when they get in relationships, they put all of their confidence in a guy. And so when that guy goes away or something happens, they're like, oh my gosh, like where literally like where did everything go? But I feel like if you like, you know, you choose to love yourself always and have that standard of like, I am going to be respected, and he's good. If he truly loves me so much, he wouldn't treat me like this. And that's where like the lines blur sometimes, because the girls are like, okay, yes, yes, yes. They let things slide. And then they're like, oh, wow, I'm in a toxic relationship now. But if you never let that first thing slide, you know what I mean? Then that guy would have held to that standard that you like first fell in love with him.
Like that first time in an argument that someone throws out a word, because it's like we're imperfect, so like we'll do things, but it's like my mom would always say, she's like, guys will go as far as you allow them to.
I was literally just thinking about that. That's crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
My mom would always like, it's like half of the time when I have been in relationships and situations, I literally like have my mom's voice. So mommy, if you're listening to this, like I remember stuff that you say. Sometimes I'm like, dang it, if I would have followed that advice, if I would have not been chasing or going to go pick him up all the time, maybe I would be picked up.
Yes,
Do you guys remember?
she always says that.
So you better take your own car, girl.
I know.
Yep.
No, she'll literally say like, oh, like if I go over my boyfriend's house, he's like, oh, well, next time he has to come to yours. Like she never like lets me be all the time with him or with his family, or like, you know, like at his house picking him up. Like she's very like traditional way. Like he picks you up, he like you in his car, like you go out on a date, like, you know, just never for me to be the one to like chase him.
Yeah.
That mentality, I'm telling you. I mean, it's worked, you know, in certain areas, and you kind of see when you're like, wow, like I know that I've overextended myself, because you feel like you're doing the most, and it's like you're enabling the guy, and speaking to myself, like you're enabling the guy to not do his part because you're the one overextended, like, okay, you need something, be right there. What do you guys think about when it comes to, okay, I'm not going to say the word, but like why men love, you know, the B word, like girls that are kind of tough or kind of like dry to them versus girls that are always like nice girls that are always there? What do you guys think about that thought?
I think that there's been a misconception where kindness is just kind of taken for granted, and that women and women's roles are kind of, I don't know, defined to just be this, you know, quote unquote maid. And you see that a lot in cultures where that are really like macho prominent, like, you know, being machistas and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, if you don't stand up to them, you know what I mean, like you are like a rug, or like, you know, if you have to be tough and you have to be cutthroat and you have to be, you know what I mean, this type of woman. But womanhood is so much more than just a personality. It's more than just me being tough and, you know what I mean, being this boss and being, you know what I mean, all up in your face, like I'm not going to tolerate things. Sometimes those same things was a survival mechanism to something that we had to endure when we were younger. But the thing is that something that you used to survive when you were younger is not always going to be the same type of system that is going to carry you into something better in your life. You know, just because I had to be that word, you know what I mean, a B, you know what I mean, when I was in middle school or when I was in high school, because I was pushed around, because I, you know, men didn't understand boundaries, because you know what I mean, I was misunderstood because I was short and little and, you know what I mean, being stepped on all over the place. Doesn't mean that at the age of 28, at the age of 30, I need to be that same person. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that there is a misconception of that what I used to survive is not going to be the same formula that I need to continue to have a healthy relationship. And then secondly, that the moment that a woman stands up for herself, and you see this all throughout society, the moment that a woman stands up for herself, she's automatically identified as that. You know what I mean? The moment that you tell someone, hey, hold on, like, I'm not done talking, or hey, hold on, you know what I mean? Let me explain something to you. You know what I mean? At the moment, it's like, hey, let me show you something actually that you are not seeing. The moment that you check someone, most oftentimes, especially men, you are identified as that, and that is wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are not that. Just because you are confident, just because you know what you want, just because you know what you deserve, does not make you that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think there's just a couple of misconceptions in just like society of like who we are who we should be, how we should act, and you're automatically labeled as something that you're so far from. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the person I try to be. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I am. I am outspoken when I need to be, but I can be kind when I need to be. You know what I mean? I can be soft, and I can listen. Just because I, speak for women empowerment doesn't mean that I speak against men and their role and their gender. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a balance too that you can have. You can have both, and it doesn't just have to be either or. And I think that within our culture, sometimes we're so easy to just eliminate one aspect and not think that you can easily balance and have a rhythm between the two, and still be confident as a woman, and not have to, bend over backwards to have a quote unquote healthy, cute, relationships, because we know relationships are more than just the pictures that people post on Instagram.
Period.
No, I agree. I think that like that mentality of like, if you stand up for yourself, you are like being rude or too much, or you're asking for too much. I think it's like goes back to what Katherine was saying. Like, I think it's having standards equals what people can take as like, oh, that's too much. You're asking for too much. Like, you need to be nice.
Right.
Like, you're not. But instead, it's like you being respected for having like saying, hey, no, I don't like that, or like, hey, no, you're not going to treat me like that, or like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, I feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. Like, you have that voice to say, and it doesn't mean that a man is going to retract or not want to be with you because of that. Mom always says, I like, again, quoting mom, but she would always say, she's like, if like, the example of the tree and the apples, did she ever tell you guys that? The tree and the apples, and like the apples in the top. So like the guys that are willing to be like to get the apples that are closest to the ground, they're like lazy, and they're like they don't like to do the work. They don't like, but the ones in the top are the ones that you have to have, be a more quality man to get there. So it's like you have to strive to be a woman of worth, to have value of yourself, because we are the only ones that place that value for ourselves, not the man. So
yeah.
I think that
we definitely set those standards. Absolutely. I think we definitely set those standards. And again, it kind of goes back to like, who you allow into your life. There's so many times where, girls can like meet a guy and like, oh, he's cool, and yeah, he's cute, and I kind of, I can maybe see this going somewhere, but the intention behind you wanting to be with him and kind of just seeing with him, maybe there's just red flags that are flowing way high, and you're completely ignoring them because you want to be with someone, because you feel lonely, because you're looking around and it's almost Valentine's Day and you need someone on your arm. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do things to like, that can hurt you. And I think it's, again, just having a standard for yourself, knowing what season of life you're in, and having that self-care. I think that is so important, like really caring for self, not just like, hey, I'm going to go get my nails done, I'm going to have, I'm going to go to therapy, I'm going to go shopping, but caring for yourself enough to know what's good for me in this season as well.
I agree. So Steph, I want to know, do you feel like people idolize marriage, and why do you think that is?
I think people do, and I don't want this to be taken out of context, because I absolutely love being married. Because I honestly feel like I chose the right person. Yes, we went through hell and high water, but we are still together and we are thriving. So for me, I can say that now. Ask me like 3 years ago, I'd probably be like, what the heck? But anyways, think that people idolize marriage for a couple of reasons. Really just two main areas that I can think of right now is the first thing is that as girls, we are taught by culture that there will one day be a Prince Charming that will come to save you. You see this all throughout the movies that we watched growing up. Every Cinderella movie, every, Aladdin movie, every Disney movie, and every Disney princess was once in trouble, and there came a man to save her from her trouble. And then they fell in love, and it was happily ever after. And within that shows like this, that the highest peak of life is when you find love. Mm-hmm. But it's not just that. Like, that is a part of life. That is not the highest point of life. The second thing is that I believe that there's just like cultural and maybe even like social pressures, especially like in the church, where if you are, if you check off a couple boxes, like, you're cute, you have a good job, you kind of walk in your calling or your purpose, and you're not with someone, like, what's wrong with you? Like, it's automatically like, the missing check. And that puts an extra level of stress on someone who's already, has been indoctrinated by culture that you should be looking for this person to come save you. You know what I'm saying? I also think that we have like a false idea of what marriage will do for us, because there could be things that you are struggling with that I know I struggled with entering into marriage. And people may think that marrying someone is going to solve those issues for you. Let me tell you, honey, that's not going to happen. If you struggle with pornography now, you will struggle more with pornography when you are married. If you struggle with loneliness and not feeling inadequate and issues now, you will continue to feel those things when you are in marriage. Those things will not dissolve at all. And so that goes back to like that idea that, I am missing areas of my life, and I need this person to come and fill me. I need this person to come and, kind of just like restore me. And they have this idea that, again, when I am married, I will be a full version of self, when in reality, you're not. God created you complete from the moment that you were born. He made you with a void for him, not a void for other people, And sometimes we try to fill that void with the same person. We think that is a missing piece, and that is a missing puzzle piece. But no, we have a misunderstanding of what Jesus came to do. We have a misunderstanding of what the Holy Spirit comes to do, because the Holy Spirit is the one that's going to fix me. The Holy Spirit is the one that's going to come and restore me. Right. He's going to change my life. It's not going to be Juan. You know what I mean? It's not going to be my husband, June. Like, he's not going to fix me. Yeah. The broken areas of my life are not going to be fixed by my husband. They're going to be fixed by the Holy Spirit. And so we have this misconception of like, okay, when I'm married, all my problems are going to go away. When I'm married, I'm not going to struggle with lust. And, when I'm married, I'm not going to struggle with pornography. When I'm married, I'm going to be better financially. No, if you mismanage money now, you're going to mismanage money when you're married. You know what I'm saying? So it's not going to absolve you of things that you're going through right now. And so, yes, I do believe that people idolize marriage. And I don't think people talk about it enough. Do I love being married? Absolutely. But was there things I wish I knew before I got married? Absolutely. And there are certain things about a holistic being that I think are so important for us to tap in during our singleness, that are so vital for us to thrive and really just be fruitful when we do one day get married, if you do want to get married.
Mm-hmm. Stephanie is preaching. Wow, those words hit my soul. That was so good.
I can't with you guys. I can't.
No, but I definitely, definitely from like a dating perspective in church, everyone's like, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? Like all the time. And I'm like, old lady, are you going to pay for my wedding? No. So come on. No, but also
cash out me. Yes.
Yeah, like I'm about to pass the offering bucket for my wedding out here. No, I don't know why, like people are just so like older people, and you would think that older people would be the ones to be like relax and take it easy because they would live through it, but they're like, no, when are you getting married? Like I do not think like marriage, like that can't be like the end all. Like marriage cannot be, that's when my life is going to be fulfilled, you know? Like I feel like so many you have so much in you, and you cannot let a person or a status like define you finally being able to do things or walk into what you like, have always been wanting to do. So if any of those people out there, people are constantly asking you if you're married, just brush it off and know that you can do anything you want to do right now. Like that status does not define or change any of your outcome or any of who you want to be.
Yes, girl, y'all both preaching. Okay. No, I think that I used to have that mentality. I mean, now being single, I am 25. So like I would always see those memes, and now I am the meme. Like I am like the people that say after 25, like, ¿dónde está el novio? Like, you know, that kind of thing. Or like when you're getting married. So I'm speaking from a single perspective that I think I idolized marriage so much because I saw everyone around me getting married, and I felt like that was such like a checklist of like, once I have at least like if I have a man, you know, like we can do things together. Like I can travel to Europe together with him. Like I can start my own business with him. Like we can do like financial things together. And now my mentality has changed so much because I feel like my disillusion of what I thought my life was going to be like didn't happen that way. And I think that like for me though, that's just like what God had to bring me through to like change that mentality and like me mature. Because I feel like if I was to get married with the mentality that I had, I would have been miserable. I would have been probably divorced by now and probably like, I don't know, just in a very rough space, because I feel like I was hoping that that person would fix things in me and be something instead of an addition. It was going to be my everything. So I definitely think that I've had to work through, and it's been difficult. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, of course, like on the holidays, like, you know, when you're like, dang, like I would love to like have a family, like, you know, like you still have that desire, which is normal. Like if you desire those things, those are normal because we are made to be around people, like to have other people with us, to be, you know, so that longing is normal if you desire to be married, or have a companion. But I think now my mentality has changed that, wait, I can have my own business, like by myself. I can buy my own house. I can have my own car, my own things. Like I don't need someone else to be able to do those things with. Even like travel to Europe, I'll go with my girls or I'll go on my own. Like I don't have to have that man to be able to do all those things. Like I have so much potential. And even in a marriage, I've seen and something like what you were saying, like a marriage doesn't, like it's still two individuals. So like maybe the person that you're with, and again, coming from a single perspective and what I've seen of other relationships, it's like maybe the person that you're with can either stop you from growing, or maybe even that person can, like you can have your own light even without them. Like meaning like maybe one of the couples is the one that's like more entrepreneurial, or maybe one of them is really good financial, or like so it's still an individual walk. Like you guys still have your own things and your own goals that you're doing. So it's not like if the couple together technically is what will make you, of course you see like those power couples, of course, that they're both in their business but like that's not everybody, and that's not a majority of people either. Like mostly people have their own ways, and that's like what also makes the relationship function well, because it's like you have your own hobbies, your own things. Like so it's like I feel like that like Instagram highlight life that we all would desire, like we don't know. And I've talked about this in previous episodes, like we don't know what people are going through. And I know even couples that have gotten married in their early 20s that are already going for divorce. So it's very sad to see that just because you want to like jump on the train, you end up being in one of those things. And if you have been divorced, you know, that's restoration in that. And there's people that can, you know, end up marrying someone else, like heal or just enjoy their singleness, you know, because they've never been single in their life. Like, so it's like there's so many things. But if you have the chance and you are in from a single perspective, you're not alone in that, because I know that there's so much stuff that you can do individually, and God can use you now, not when you get to that, you know. So that's my tea when it comes to that.
Preaching too.
We all preaching, girl. So when it comes to what we were talking about, when it comes like, you know, with people doing things individually and like in a relationship, how do you guys think that you do not lose yourself in a relationship?
I think there's like a natural like inclination to like want the other person to think and feel and see the world the way that you do. And I remember that because that's what I tried to do with my husband June. Like I tried for him to like the same things that I did and like see the world how I saw it and be, you know, similar like me, like, oh, I wouldn't do that, or like, why don't you do this, or that's weird, or whatever. But we miss the level of individuality that each person brings. And that's one thing that needs to be celebrated and it needs to be cherished. That in our relationship, we are both individuals. We may like different things. We may see the world in different ways. And in some areas, I think that there's some areas that are non-negotiable that you know, should see areas similar in. But within that is that in your individuality is celebrated. You know what I'm saying? Like my husband loves sports. I am not a sports person, like, you know, at all. And, you know, I will be like, yes, you know, the Tampa Bay is going to, I think it's Super Bowl, I think, or something like that. Like, but hey, awesome. Like they're going and he's over there like jumping around. And I'm like, yes, let's jump together. Not because I understand everything that's going on, but he, in his individuality, he enjoys that. So therefore I'm going to celebrate that, you know, but I'm not going to try to change that. And for you to tone it down and for you not to like that. No, because for him to be the best version of himself, he needs to be individual. You know, he needs to be an individual. And there are going to be times where he needs to do his own things and I do my own things. And then we come back together and we're better because we've been apart and now we're together. You know what I'm saying? So there's this cycle that, and culture that I think each relationship can develop. And you rob yourself from it when you compare your relationship to what you want others to be. I think there is a specific DNA that your relationship will have that, you know, in your calling, you will discover in your time together, you will discover that you can nourish that. But to try to like change your relationship to like want to match, you know, what that person is, or I need to be like them, or you need to be like them because that's what I see, like, because they bring them flowers every week, or because they, you know what I mean, take them out to dinner every 2 weeks, or you know what I mean, whatever the case may be. You rob them of that individuality. It may not be because, I mean, it can be areas that, you know, you guys can improve on. Absolutely. You know, it's good to have those checks with your relationship, but to push someone to change their true core self, there's only one person that can do it, and that's Jesus. And you're not Jesus. You know what I mean? So I think it's just important for us to know that. Part of not losing yourself is also having a better understanding of who you are, and valuing you. I did, in my first 2 years when June and I were dating, I actually went through like deep counseling to like get through a lot of stuff that I had not overcome by my early 20s. And at that moment, I had a better understanding of who I was. I knew that God loved me. I knew whose I was, you know, and stuff like that. But I had a greater level of appreciation for myself, where I allowed myself grace because I had a better understanding of what I went through and how I got to where I am, you know, the things I got to in my life. And I don't think if it wasn't for that, I probably would have allowed things that, you know, that shouldn't have happened, you know, or just kind of looked the other way when I should have addressed certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that for not losing yourself too is just like you are attracted to that person usually because of the differences. Like, because if you're shy and they're outgoing, you're like, oh my God, I love that he's like so outgoing, so nice to everybody. But then those things end up being like, ugh, like why does he have to say hi to everybody? Like, why does he have to say, like, so it's interesting how we want someone that's like challenges us or like makes, you know what I mean? Like adds something different to our life, but then we end up trying to be like, wait, no, like I want you to be
Turn
like
it down.
yeah. So like what you were saying. So I feel like also you having your individual self, like knowing yourself is super important, and also having your own things that you're doing. Like I feel like having your own hobbies, having your own friends, like because I feel like when people have things all together, even like that, it's still healthy to have your own group of things. You know what I mean? Like group of, because I remember like at least in dating, like let's say like there was ever a situation that we couldn't be together, or they would be on a trip or whatever the case may be, like it's like you're just sitting there like waiting for them to come back. It's like, no, like you have your own friends, you go hang out with your girls, you go do your own things, like so it's like you have your own hobbies that your life continues even without them. Because like how Katherine and you guys said is like, then if not, if that person isn't there for whatever reason, because even in marriage, right, you don't know if that's going to work. Like, you don't know if that's going to be forever. Like, you know, that's what you would hope, but you don't know. So it's like, you still want to have your identity in yourself and not become what you think that someone else wants to be, you to be, you know? So it's like, if you still like even sticking to those small commitments of like, okay, so every Sunday I do this. And then even when that person comes into your life, you're starting to be like, well, maybe like, I'll not go this Sunday, or I'll not, you know, like you start kind of like molding your life. And I feel like that makes it like you start losing your friends, you start doing whatever, which I feel like what will help you to have a better foundation in that is that you continue doing the things that you did prior to that person, you know? So like whatever things habits you had or whatever that are not, of course, going to damage the relationship, but like when it comes to like your hobbies, you know, your friend time, whatever that is, that your family time, you know, all those things, continually doing those things, because then that person's more of an addition to your life, not your whole life.
Yeah. I was just thinking for that question, like, I think there's power in space, like of you having space between like your significant other and them missing you. Like that's so important that they have a time where they're like, oh my God, like I haven't talked to her. Oh my gosh, like we haven't hung out. And like they reach out, you know, they're like, hey, let's do something, or you know what I mean? Like, unless if you're always available, it's like, then that guy kind of gets like, guys like that chase. So you have to be moving. You can't be chasing and stay in one place. You got to be moving, girl. You got to be doing your thing. Like, you know, so I feel like definitely like never just like letting the guy just be so, you not always being so available to the guy is very important, and not in like a mean way, or like you're trying to like be any type of like prideful or anything. Just always not being like, yeah, I'm right here. Like, yeah, I'll meet you up. Yeah, I'll pick you up. Like, you know, just having that time, or like sometimes not being like, not answering their phone calls that quickly. Like, you know, I don't know. Like,
let them ring. Go to voicemail.
Like, I literally, like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen like value in that. And I've also seen where girls have like literally lost themselves because they've always just been so there, available, always, like, you know, so definitely creating that space where, you know, they can miss you and that you can miss them, because that's important too. Then when you guys are together, it's quality time. You're not just like sitting next to each other being like, all right, so, you know, it's like quality time you have together. And also you're just going back to like what you value. Like there's been times where like my boyfriend will call, but I'm with my family, you know, like I'm not, like I value time with my family, so I'm not going to pick up, you know. It's just certain things like that. It's like creating that like boundary that I'm always going to go back to what I value, what like I like, not to change myself, not to be like, okay, like I'm just going to go and like leave my sisters or whatever to go for him, you know what I mean? Like just going back to what you value.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, don't do things that are gonna like cause problems in your relationship. First of all, you know what I mean. But like, I definitely get what you're saying.
Go missing for a week.
No,
just
like that's unhealthy.
Don't
you know
go to the extreme. Yeah.
But I think that there's definitely areas where you can set personal boundaries and be like, you know what, like these areas are important to me, and you know I'm going to continue these things. And then you know these are areas where I feel like you know I would want to include you, or you know, I would kind of want us to kind of, you know, to bring our own identities, you know, and, you know, kind of do things together in this area, you know, still being individuals and being whole in that. But then, you know, kind of just bridging in those things and doing things together to, again, kind of build your own culture. Every relationship has one. And so it's just a matter of time of, you know, as you develop your own.
Yep. Love that. What do you guys think women really want from a guy? Like, what do we really want, or do we even know what we want? Because that's what everyone says, right? That women don't know what they want.
There's a book I love reading. So there's a book that's called Four Things a Woman Wants by A.R. Bernard. Y'all have to read it. It is like, for, you know, he's a male and he's a pastor, powerful man of God, but he writes this book, and I definitely encourage you women to read it if you're a woman. If you are a man, hey, hint, hint. How do you know what a woman wants? Read the book. And I'm going to share just some areas that he actually talks about. And reading the book, there's four things that actually God wants from a man, and that's actually maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. Okay. And there are four things that women want from a man, you know, according to his book, and that is maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. But what are four areas that men struggle with? Maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. And I encourage you, ladies, please read this book. It'll also give you kind of a better understanding about self. It goes back to like the creation about Adam and Eve and the fall, and the different tensions between men and women that even started and originated there. But anyways, those are, I think, honestly, four areas that kind of sum up what I honestly want in a relationship. I think there's a level of maturity emotionally and spiritually that we all desire. Decisiveness, yes. You know what I mean? I need you to be able to make decisions and make solid decisions. And in the book, he goes even more into depth in that. You know, you see the memes all the time that, like, you know, women don't choose anymore, you know, where we're going to eat, because the first time that she chose was Eve and she chose the apple, or the fruit or whatever. So, you know, that's why we never choose where we want to eat, or we don't know where we're going to eat anymore. Consistency, you know what I'm saying? Like being remaining constant in every area of life, not just like, you know, commitment, but, you know what I mean? Just like consistency, you being the same, you know, different things like that. And then strength, not only physically, you know, because that's, you know, appealing, but also mentally and emotionally, spiritually, and different things like that. So I would kind of sum it up there. From what I read, I found that beneficial to me.
No, I completely agree. I think that where I was coming from was more the perspective of what we think we want because of either like our old habits, how we were raised, how we think we want from a man because of what we heard growing up, what we saw growing up, what we learned in movies, you know, kind of like what you were saying before about that we like think that we have this idea, but like what you're saying, yeah, of course, we want someone that's mature, like, come on. And you know that men definitely mature slower than us usually, but at the same time, like I feel like we want someone that makes decisions, that's strong mentally, emotionally, that's there for us in those things like that we go through, and sometimes until they truly also do the work in them individually, that's when you'll see that. So those books are really good. And I feel like for us, and this is something that I know for me, I've read a lot of dating books and I've read a lot of things from, you know, from different people, but you have to remember that all of those are people's own views on relationships and their own perspectives. So in reality, it's like people's opinions on paper. So what can we really go back to is always going to be the Bible and what the Bible says about relationships and what the Bible says about love and ourselves and, you know, all of that process. And like how you said, the Holy Spirit is the one that really changes, that we can use to change, you know, ourselves. So you have to be very careful, because I know that my thinking from relationships, a lot of it came from books that I read that maybe weren't found in right thinking, you know, maybe weren't foundational with, you know, so then that kind of puts expectation and unrealistic thoughts of what that other person will be for your life or in relationships and what you think you want when that's not really what you want, you know? So like, you just have to be very careful when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Spurgeon has a quote that says, "Visit many books, but live in the Bible." And that goes honestly to every book that is out there. You know, I like to read, I like to get different perspectives and different opinions. And that's what honestly it is. But I feel like, the word of God, has something to say about relationships, has something to say about me being whole. It has something to say about my, who I am and different things like that, and who I'm defined, and what defines me. And so I think it's just important to have that level of understanding and knowledge. And therefore, you continue to build upon that based on, what resources are available to you, which we have everything at our fingertips pretty much nowadays. But again, don't I like what you were saying is kind of like, having an understanding that everything that I am reading, that I'm digesting, that I'm internalizing, is one way to look at it, and ultimately let the Holy Spirit guide you to what's right for you.
Yeah, agreed. I really enjoy this conversation. I feel like we all have different perspectives on, because we all come from, like marriage, dating, single, like all those different ways that we can, help, but also like maybe there's someone that needs to hear what we had to say in regards to those things, So what is some last encouragement for dating, married, or single? So Kat?
For someone dating, I would say, don't let like the outside voices get to you of rushing you into like a new season or a new stage, like with your significant other. Definitely like enjoy the season you're in, and like just learn to work on your relationship together. And before you like jump into marriage or anything like that, like I'll definitely work on yourself, like how both Stephanie and Liz were talking about, like prioritize yourself in this season, because this is a season that you'll never get back once you get married and once you move to the next season in your life. To someone that is single, I would definitely say, if you've never had a boyfriend and you feel like you're in that stage that you feel like you haven't had that and you want that in the season, I would say that you're not missing anything. Like, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Don't try and rush into something just because that's like what's in, or because you might feel alone or anything. Again, your season of singleness is something, again, that you'll never get back. And you can definitely work on so many things internally in your life, so that when you are in a relationship, you don't have to go through so many things and battles within that relationship. You can be a whole person, and they can be a whole person, and then your dating relationship can just be you getting better and you taking out the better things in one another. So definitely, if you're single, like don't compare yourself to anyone else or anyone else's story, and imagine if that first boyfriend that you get is your husband, so definitely don't feel like you have to have a whole bunch of boyfriends to like have any purpose in your life, or to fulfill anything else that someone else has over you.
That's good. What about you, Steph? For anyone married, dating, single, any advice?
Yeah, there was something that I learned that I honestly feel like I carried through my singleness when I understood the importance of it, was that if I wanted to serve Jesus with all of my being, and everything that I am, I can remain single. But if I want to be more like Jesus, that's what happens when you get married. The reason why is because that's when iron sharpens iron, So if you have aspirations to get married, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But in your singleness, devote it fully to God. Like, there's absolutely no limit to what he can do in your life. The other part of that is that, within your relationship, have an understanding of have a realistic understanding of who that person that you are with, what their role is in your life. They are not there to, heal you or to cure you from struggles or issues. Like, they're not the Holy Spirit and they're not God. So don't idolize or put them in a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? That God is the only one that should be in, because they're humans. We're humans. We're gonna fail them. You know what I mean? And they can fail us. And lastly is that, within your relationship, I think it's so important when you have an understanding of your mission and your purpose, because then your relationship has a purpose too. You are working together as partners in this journey of life to accomplish God's mission in this earth. And you have a part to play in that.
So good. Yes. I think for me, some advice to dating and single. I think I read this book that's called Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stewart. And I feel like that was so good, especially like if you're in whatever season of your life. I definitely recommend it. Definitely Bible approved too. So like I went through the Bible check. It does have really good wisdom, but in the chapter of singleness, it said a quote that said, I don't want to miss the benefits of now because I'm fixated on the benefits of then or then, you know, like in the future. So before or in the future. So I think that what singleness does, it's literally what it's designed to do is to give the devotion to God, like what you were saying, like that's complete devotion. That means no distractions, girls, because we know that when a guy comes in your life, as great as it can be, we do end up giving a lot of time and energy and focus on that. So singleness is a time and a season where you're literally devoted to God, your mission, your purpose, like what Stephanie was saying. And you can cultivate deep friendships. You can keep learning about yourself. You can, you know, heal. You can do all the things that you want to do with when it comes to your job, whatever goals you have in mind. Like you can completely do the mission in that. And, you know, when you have that perspective of like, I know that this is just a season of my life and not my whole life, you know, I think that you can enjoy it to the max and be like, you know, like, I know that this is where God wants you to be. How can I help other people? Like just thinking outside of just yourself in that time, you know, or even like, let's say you're hurting or recently going through a breakup or in a toxic relationship and whatever, there's still hope for you. Like there's so many women out there that want to help and want a friend and want to be encouraged and want a buddy. So it's like at the end of the day, like whichever one that is for you, just having hope that, you know, you won't walk through it alone. And I think for dating, I think that like I've learned so much from my previous experiences, good and bad. And I feel like just knowing that like you want God in it, you know, whatever you're in, you know, and you want to make sure that, I think recently because of like reflecting and going through my own healing process, I feel like I've seen how will my future look like how will my future daughter or my future son look at my relationship with my own husband. Like I want to make sure that I am in a healthy relationship and doing whatever it takes to make sure that I am whole by myself, that when I have that partner, like we can build a good foundation and a family together, you know? Mm-hmm. So like putting that into perspective, I feel like now being 25, I'm done kind of thinking about like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is nice. We're enjoying, like, it's kind of like, okay, like, I know that I want to be in a relationship. These are my things that I want. I know that I want to pursue this. And I know eventually one day I want to get married. So whatever person is going to come around, that needs to be in their radar, you know, that they need to be in that mindset of like, I'm not playing games, you know, kind of thing. Like, I know that that's what I want. And I've worked on myself. You know what I mean? Like I've had things in myself so that can be for that, you know, purpose. So any last thoughts for you guys?
No, I think this is so good. I love it.
Yes.
Killing it, Liz.
Thank you guys for being a part. I know this is a lengthy episode, but if you've made it all the way here, you're the MVP. Thank you for all your support. And my sisters, honestly, I love them so much. We are in so many, like how I said in the beginning, our walks of life are so different right now. But I feel like when we're together, it's so celebrated and it's great to see where we've all come out of or we all walk through individually together, you know. So, you know, excited, you know, Stephanie might eventually have a child, you know, in the next few years and like Katherine married and, you know, like we're all going to like go to different seasons of our lives. So it's going to be exciting, you know, but thank you guys. Where can they find you, you know, to connect with you?
Well, first, thank you, Lizzie, for having me on your podcast. I love this platform that you're building to have, you know, raw and real conversations. I'm proud of you. I love you. And you can find me on Instagram. Kathy Sabillon.
Hey, that plug.
Yes, no, Lizzie, so proud of you. I tell you this probably every time we talk, but I honestly just excited for all that you're doing, that everything that you are creating, that you're building, just amazing, podcast, beauty marks. And I know you're touching people every single week. You can find me on Instagram at Steph Marcelin. And also my husband and I actually also have a podcast, Moments with the Marcelins. So I'll just, shameless plug here. Also tune into, what we have going on over there.
Yes, they are an amazing couple that talk about all things realness too when it comes to faith, their relationships. They have really good conversations, and I feel like they just balance really well off each other, like when it comes to a host, because I know that this is an individual episode, like this is an individual podcast, so like I always tell them that, like, dang, it would definitely be easier if I had like a co-host, but that's what makes your guys' different, and mine different as well. So definitely tune in to their podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you guys so much, and thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Let us know what you thought about this podcast, like reviews, send us a message, and would love to chat. And thank you guys. I will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.